Good evening, Razorback fans, and welcome to the one and only Hawg Talk podcast. Live from the Amigo Provisions Company studios, we are a part of the Believe in Buzz radio network, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as the Buzz 2 106.7. So please like, rate, and review our podcast on whatever platform you watch us on. All live shows are presented by Arkansas Brewing Company in Ozark, Arkansas. This is Jacob Davis, and tonight I am the lone host because as Porter Hayes travels to South Carolina, where he'll be covering the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament for us, our broadcast is also brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports, NBA, and all of it in between. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features the live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost every sport in any game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head on over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BLEAV to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. Well, everybody, I appreciate y'all tuning in. It's going to be a pretty good show, pretty loaded show. Arkansas coming off a loss to Alabama. I know it was a nationally looked at game. Arkansas, man, they were very impressive throughout the first half of the Arkansas game on the road against Alabama. And it stinks that you had to see them come away with a loss, a 3-point loss, especially in the way that they were in this game. They controlled the first half. They looked really good. I mean, I thought Arkansas was doing some things out there that showed me that this was the team that we were expecting to see. And we heard so many times throughout the first few minutes of the broadcast where they were saying, well, Arkansas is back to full strength. They're back at full strength with Nick Smith, and they're forgetting somebody in Trevin Brazile, arguably the most athletic, crazy phenomenon at Trevin Brazile, man. Missing him. So Arkansas is not at full strength. I think that was a misguided perception there, where Arkansas isn't at the full strength, but they are at full strength, as close to full strength as they can be. So, obviously, Arkansas, they came away with a 3-point loss. They were in control of that game. Nick Smith led the team with 24 points. Devo Davis playing with the heart of a hog over and over and over again. The guy was just outstanding. Had 21 points, had many threes. I don't have it pulled up right quick. Let me get that pulled up. That's the only tab I was missing, was the basketball team. Man, they were so close to pulling off a road upset. Something that I think the whole nation had been wanting to see Arkansas pull off an upset, especially with everything that's surrounding the Alabama program, with Brandon Miller, with Darius Miles, and with Mr. Davis. Like, it just, you wanted to see Arkansas be able to pull something out of their hat, and they almost did. I mean, they were that close. I mean, hitting threes, hitting shots when they needed, and they almost pulled it off in crunch time, especially when free throws are being shot. I thought what was weird, though, was Arkansas was almost nearly in the bonus with about 12 minutes to go in that second half. And I thought, okay, they're going to play it up. And you know, Arkansas just got out physical. I don't think they were out coached. I think, you know, a lot of their guys, they rose to the occasion. They're the home team. It's senior night. A lot of these guys are playing for the last time at the Coliseum. Yeah, Brandon Miller had 24 points. Javon Quinterly, a guy that's 24 years old, and he still has another season because of the COVID eligibility deal. Javon Quinterly still has one more season to play. He has that choice at 24 years old, could come back to Alabama at 25. That's just insane. He had 16 points, a couple of daggers there late in the game. And then you had Mark Sears, who had a really good game last time against Arkansas in Fayetteville. He had 13 points. But this big story was Arkansas limited Alabama. Alabama had been averaging like anywhere between 8 to 10 3-point baskets a game. Like they just really, they were a volume shooting team. And yeah, they shot 22 threes yesterday's win and only made 3 of them. One was by Brandon Miller at the top of the key, Javon Quinterly in the corner, and I'm missing another one, Dom Welch, who I don't remember that one, but he had a 3 at some point. But Arkansas was flowing. They were the physical team in the first half. They were after it, and they played a lot of that first half without Anthony Black. Obviously, Anthony Black ended up fouling out in the second half with about 4:34 remaining. But you had guys like Nick Smith who nearly played all but 26 seconds of the game. Same deal with Devontae Davis. He played all but 26 seconds of the game. Those guys were 17 of 38 from the field by themselves. Those guys are going to be able to bring Arkansas really far during March Madness, and I'll get to that later. Anthony Black, obviously 2 of 7 from the field. Jordan Walsh was 2 of 7 from the field. A guy that was in foul trouble too, ended up with 4 personal fouls, but he was able to stay in the game. A couple of guys that were, really key focal points in that first game was Mekhi Mitchell and Jalen Graham. Jalen Graham was pretty much a non-factor after having a pretty good 3 or 4 game stretch there for Arkansas. Went up against Alabama, played 9 minutes and 17 seconds, and I mean, the guy just really didn't get into a groove. Obviously, you have all those big guys from Alabama. You have Bediako, who's a difference maker. You had Brandon Miller. You had Noah Clowney. So many guys out there that there's just mismatches out there, and it doesn't do anything but to diminish what Jalen Graham's been able to do the past couple of weeks at Arkansas. But he just didn't have the matchup that was appropriate, kind of like it was against Georgia. He had a matchup there. Florida had a matchup there. Ricky Council had a really good game. Obviously, he was able to get to the free throw line plenty, going 10 of 14 from the line. He had 20 points on 5 of 9 from the field. Was the guy that took the last shot. Obviously, you want to have somebody that makes more threes per game. I think Ricky Council was a 24% 3-point shooter, a guy that you can't really depend on, but a guy that can hit them occasionally. He throws up more knuckleballs than mostly doesn't put very much arch on the ball. And if he does put any arch on the ball, it's way too much. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But the thing is, Arkansas didn't get that shot to fall. You really want a guy like Devo Davis, who was 3 for 4 from 3, or Nick Smith, who was 2 for 3 from 3. Like those 2 guys were the only 2 guys that hit a 3-point shot that night. The rest of everybody went 0 for 2. Nobody else took a shot besides Jordan Walsh on the key and Anthony Black from the top of the circle. Really didn't have much of an impact from Mekhi Mitchell. He got plenty of rebounds, didn't have much of a scoring factor there. He scored 5 points. Mekhi Mitchell was held scoreless. He had 2 rebounds only. That's his second straight game where he just really wasn't himself. For the game, Arkansas shot 29 of 70 from the field for 41%. And at one point during this game, Arkansas was sitting at 50% shooting the ball. And it drifted down. One of the things that really concerned me down the stretch was Arkansas's free throw shooting. They were 8 of 9 from the line in the first half. They went 12 of 20, and there was one point I think they had like 5 or 6 straight missed free throws. It just you wish you could get some of those back, but it is what it is. Anyways, Hog fans, while we go through this stretch, during the show, you interact with me. Give me your comment. Leave some questions. Or is this going to be a long show just by myself doing it solo? What were your concerns about Arkansas this past weekend? Was there anything that stuck out to you during the game, during this past week stretch? Obviously, Arkansas 7-3 in the past 10 games since that 1-5 start to conference play. And honestly, it really puts a damper on what's been a solid rebound stretch for the Razorbacks, because obviously they went 1-5. They lost a bunch of close games throughout the season. I think they've had 4 losses that came down to one possession, and 3 of them were road games. I mean, Arkansas, they went on the road to play Missouri, lost that one, lost Baylor. Man, then they lost to Auburn, which wasn't a one possession, but Arkansas had the opportunities there to keep that game. Arkansas had control early, kind of like they did against Alabama yesterday. Jose Castaneda. I like the way Nick looked as a primary ball handler in the first half. And that's really what Arkansas needs. That's what Eric Musselman wants. I think I relayed that message last week. Nick Smith, he was supposed to be the alpha dog. And that's really what Arkansas needs, is a guy that is a scorer, a threat to score the basketball in every single possession. And that's what you've seen in the years past with Mason Jones, with a JD Note, and now with Nick Smith. You have a guy that is a ball dominant guy. That doesn't mean he's a ball hog. It doesn't mean that any of these players are ball hogs that are offensive driven players. But what Nick Smith offers is a guy that every single touch, it's a soft touch, soft release, a guy that you can depend on, a guy that can take, 23, 24 shots. He went 9 of 23 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 4 of 5 from the line. So a guy that's not afraid to go after contact, not afraid to shoot outside of the zone, but a guy that's going to take more shots. And that's what Arkansas has had in the past, over the past few seasons, is a guy that's a ball dominant player that's going to go and look to create his own shot, to go down and not be afraid of contact, and a guy that is going to jack up shots. And you remember, there was points in some games where JD Note would go 4 of 22 from the field, or go 6 of 30 from the field in multiple games last season. And Arkansas won those games. And I think a lot of it is, the focus is, Arkansas needs these guys to take up a bunch of shots, shoot volume stuff, create more possessions. And I think that's what Arkansas does well. And that's what kind of gets teams a little bit out of the zone, because Arkansas is not afraid to go out there and shoot these shots. They're not afraid to create extra possessions, create extra defensive possessions for the opponent. And so when you play these teams that maybe want to slow Arkansas down, it really helps and benefits Arkansas playing more possessions. And the more possessions you have to score the basketball is a winning recipe. And I like that. And I like what Jose says here. Nick did look really, really good as a primary ball handler. He was the primary ball handler against Alabama. Against Georgia. Now he's going to be the primary ball handler going on the road to Tennessee, which is going to be another crazy atmosphere at Thompson Bowling Arena. Yeah, it's going to be a Tuesday. It's at 8:00. So I expect there to be a pretty good crowd come to the Tennessee game, especially with how their season's gone. And it's really weird, because Tennessee was expected, and it wasn't very long ago where Tennessee was the 11th ranked team in the country. They've kind of gone on this slide here as of late. They rebounded this past weekend, but they sometimes their defense is great. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. Their offense is really inconsistent. You've got Vescovi, I feel like he's been there for about 10 years. You've got Zakai Ziegler, who is a fantastic point guard, a great facilitator, a guy that can shoot the rock too. I think Arkansas will be able to really dictate the tempo there. I think if you can get Tennessee out of their game plan and keep Plavich out of the paint and really attack the paint. Arkansas, that was one thing that Arkansas didn't do very well this past week, and that's because of the size disadvantage against Alabama. Where's that stat there? Arkansas was in the paint. They were outscored 52-38, which isn't that bad because, a lot of it had to do with the late drives to the baskets in Arkansas in desperation time. Alabama kind of let things go. But at one point, it was like Arkansas was being doubled in points in the paint. And that's usually where Arkansas' strong suit is. They're not going to see that against Tennessee this week. And I don't think they're going to be able to see that outside of Oscar Tshiebwe on Saturday at Bud Walton Arena at 1 o'clock. I think it's going to be a whole different story there. I think Arkansas will be able to attack the paint with more efficiency at home with the crazy Bud Walton Arena. I think Arkansas has a chance to go out there and win these next two games. I don't think it's going to be easy. I do not. But Arkansas, yeah, they were outscored 52-38 in the paint, and that's one thing that Arkansas is going to have to clean up this week. Let's see here. Chris Corley, what's he got to say? Hogs with two tough games left. Kentucky playing good ball just blew the doors off Auburn. That would be under 500 in conference play if you lose them both. Not best for a resume. And yeah, that's one thing that I think we can go on to now is the talk of tourney play and the talk of the next couple of games here. Arkansas is ranked 14th currently in the net rankings. Why is that such a big deal? And I'll tell you why it's not that big of a deal if Arkansas loses these next two games. I think they are in the tournament. I don't think they have to go and win any games in the SEC tournament to have to depend on for seeding. It would look great, though, if Arkansas does win these next two games, especially a road game against Tennessee. And that's another reason why the Arkansas losing to Alabama, if they would have won that game against Alabama, gone on the road and beaten Tennessee, that puts a whole new light on the situation at Arkansas. Yeah, you lost 9 games, but you look at it in this way, Arkansas is playing their best ball as of late, and now you're looking at maybe going 1-1 down this 2-game stretch instead of maybe going 3-0 and really bolstering your resume. Arkansas is going to be a dangerous 8, 9, or 7 seed. Because they are at full strength. They're as at full strength as they are going to be. Because without Trevor in Brazil, I think Arkansas would be a crazy good 2 or 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed. But with these 2 games left and Kentucky playing better ball than they did, and that's one thing is Arkansas and Kentucky were picked to finish first and second in the SEC regular season before the year, and both teams look like they were completely out of the tournament, especially through the first 6, 7, 8 games of the season, conference season. Now these teams are starting to gel a little bit. They are looking a little bit more confident. And I'm thinking Kentucky, yeah, they're playing good ball, but you got to look at how Auburn's been playing. Auburn was pretty much, on skates through the first couple of weeks. They were of conference season during the non-conference play. They looked good. They deserved their top 25 ranking, but then the losses piled up. They didn't look too great. And now Auburn is kind of falling onto the bubble, but Kentucky, who is one of the first 4 out teams, are now is rising up a little bit. And I think whoever, Arkansas and Kentucky, one of those teams, whoever wins that game is a 7 seed in Arkansas, or Kentucky will be the 8 seed or 9 seed. I think that's how that plays out. I don't really have a feeling if Arkansas loses or Kentucky loses in the first game of the SEC tournament that it would be vindicative of. I don't think it would affect their tournament seeding. I don't think it would, because I think Arkansas and Kentucky have done enough over the past month and a half to kind of reset their season, and now they're playing for more. I think both of those teams are in. I think the SEC is going to probably get 7 to 8 teams in, because you've got Alabama, you've got Arkansas, Kentucky. I think they're both clearly in. You've got Missouri, you got Tennessee in. I think Mississippi State may get in. Right now, they are in the final 4 seeds to get into the tournament. And then, shoot, I'm trying to think of who else. I may be missing a team or two, but there is a possibility that Arkansas gets 8 teams. And this SEC league, they're 11 teams deep this season. You take out South Carolina, you take out the Ole Miss, and you take out the LSU. The rest of the conference, they're fine. They're playing good basketball. They're competitive. Anywhere between Texas A&M under Texas A&M, the 3 spot down to the 11th spot, they're probably separated by that much. It's not very much. And I think Arkansas, in Kentucky, all these teams playing so well at the right time. They're all there's 7 teams in the top 50 of the net. I think that even if Arkansas does go and they lose all 3 games down the stretch and they finish under 500 in conference play, I don't think it does anything to affect their tournament resume. I don't think so. I think Arkansas is in completely. I think it wouldn't hurt to win a couple of games in the NCAA tournament or in the SEC tournament. I don't think it hurts at all. But you want to win them all, especially when you're a fan, especially when you're in the media, and especially when you're playing the game of basketball. But you really want to stay away, and everybody knows you want to stay away from that 8-9 seed game, because the very next game you got to go and play the number 1 seed in the tournament. And it's not very often. It's happened one time where a 16 seed knocks out the number 1 seed, and it just doesn't happen very often. And so Arkansas, if they can win these next 2 games, win maybe 1 or 2 games in the SEC tournament, I think they're a 7 seed. That would put them at 22, 23, and 11. Probably the most dangerous 23 and 11 team in the country, because they're 7-3 through their last 10. They win their next 2. That makes it 9-3. Win a couple of games in the SEC tournament and maybe lose in the semifinals. That puts you at 11-4 over your last 15 games. That's fine with me. I think that's a pretty dang good finish to where you started, especially going 1-5 in the SEC. I think it's totally fine, totally acceptable, and Arkansas will be a 7 seed. Now, who do you want to see? I hope they're far and away out of the Alabama bracket. I hope Arkansas, if they're going to play in a 1 seed, I would rather them, if they had to play a 1 seed in the second round, go play Purdue. Why? Because I think the whole Big Ten are a bunch of frauds. I don't think that any of them are going to be at the level that Arkansas plays teams in the SEC. Arkansas, they went and beat the overall number 1 seed last year and pretty much handled them without a big-time rim protector. Arkansas did a lot of it because of J.D. Note and Jalen Williams this year. And then you had Stanley Amude and Adese Toney. But after that, there was a pretty good drop-off in guys in production. But this year, you've got Devo Davis, who's playing out of his mind good right now. You've got a Nick Smith guy that is playing very good right now. The guy's finished with 20 points in his last 2 games, a guy that's starting to see the floor and get into a groove of things. I didn't expect him to come out and light it up in the first 2 games as he was back, because it was going to take a few minutes to really get back into the gel of things during, and you're putting a guy out there that hadn't played any since December 17. You're expecting him to go out for 30? No. But now the guy has got his groove on, and he's playing really good basketball right now. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what maybe a Ricky Council can do, because the floor spacing on this offense with this team is a lot greater with Nick Smith out there. And I really think that Arkansas has an opportunity to do some things in the NCAA tournament, things that were expected of them beforehand. Razorback fans, give me your comments and questions here. We got a couple of minutes till the break. But really, honestly, I feel like Arkansas could do some things. You've got the physicality down low with the Mitchell twins, with Jalen Graham, a guy that I think was becoming a little bit more physical throughout the past couple of weeks. This team, and you have Jordan Walsh, you have a team that can go 8 to 9 guys deep. a deeper roster than Coach Musselman has ever had at Arkansas. And I think that Arkansas can finally do that. I feel comfortable with saying Arkansas has a chance. If they can avoid the 8 or 9 seed line, they can advance pretty far in the NCAA tournament. But they do have to play a team. You play a slow Purdue team that doesn't really have it. A Purdue team that, outside of Edey, I'd take Arkansas over any team. I wish we had a guy like Edey, but he doesn't fit into the Arkansas scheme. Arkansas can hurry up, get him into foul trouble, and that pretty much puts Arkansas and Purdue on about the same surface. And I think that will provide Arkansas the ability to upset Purdue or any other team. I don't want to see Arkansas have to play Alabama again, maybe outside of the SEC tournament. I hope they don't have to be in the same bracket as them. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. And on Selection Sunday, I think Arkansas has the opportunity here to be a 7 seed, 8 seed, and really make some noise. I wouldn't want to play them during March. This team is fast. This team is spacing the floor like we hadn't seen them since early on in the season, especially with Brazil. And that was a thing, though, that I thought we were counting on. And I remember tweeting something during the Maui Invitational after the loss to Creighton. Creighton's a great team. They lost to Villanova on the road on Saturday. They're the number 16 overall team in the AP poll. They're a really good team. And that was not a bad loss. San Diego State was not a bad loss or a bad win. Like, it was a really good win. But I tweeted something out that said, when Nick Smith comes back, Arkansas is going to be great. They're going to be Final Four worthy. And then we lost Trevin Brazil just a couple of weeks later due to an ACL injury. And that really crippled Arkansas. That crippled what they were able to do offensively. And they figured out ways to take care of things. And it took a little while. And then you throw Nick Smith back into things, and now you're starting to see the promise of this team, the promise of this offense, the promise of a season that we thought we could kiss goodbye just a couple of weeks ago. Now we're looking at it through a whole different scope. And I think Arkansas has the promise here to go on a run here in this NCAA tournament and make some noise. In this SEC tournament and make some noise. Go and beat Tennessee and Kentucky in the final 2 games, the final week of the regular season, and go get a victory and go chase a higher seed, BC chasers. And I think Arkansas has that chance. I'm Jacob Davis. I am the lone host. As I said earlier in the show, Porter Hayes is on his way to Greenville, South Carolina, where he will cover the SEC women's basketball tournament. I think he'll do a great job. Stay tuned for some news from him personally. While he is in Greenville, he has some great news for him and the Hawg Talk podcast. As always, our shows are brought to you by Shelby Taylor Trucking, the leader in all of timber needs in South Central Arkansas. They're located in Sheridan, Arkansas. Give them a call. Their name and a business and phone number are down here on the scroll. If you ever need them, sell some timber. They're always looking to help you with your timber needs. Give Shelby Taylor Trucking a call. Also, we have McCoy Tiger Drug in Sheridan, Arkansas. 870-942-5121 is their number. They don't only sell drugs. They are one of the best in the region with your gifts, with tuxedo rentals. Everything that you can imagine is in this store. It's amazing. Man, come by, drop by and see them today. McCoy Tiger Drug Store in Sheridan. So real quick, man, Arkansas, they took it to Eastern Illinois this past weekend. And I was really pleased by how they played. They came home for the first time. And, yeah, they really struggled against Grambling. Grambling really showed up on Tuesday night in Fayetteville, and we can look at the scoreboard and say, "Oh man, Arkansas only won against Grambling State 9-7." Are you sure that's right? And you kind of scratch your eyes and you're like, 9-7. What the heck? Why is Arkansas only beating this team? A team from the SWAC, a team that you have overall better talent than, and you only beat them 9-7. That's the beauty of baseball. That's how it is. But you also got to think about it from a player standpoint in the box when you're going up to bat and you're used to seeing these 96, 97-mile-an-hour pitches that you were seeing last week against TCU, Oklahoma State, and Texas. And then you come home and you're opening Baum Walker, the most beautiful stadium in all of America. And these pitchers from Grambling State are throwing 75-mile-per-hour fastballs to you. Take it, for instance. You're sitting in the batter's box waiting to drill a 96, 97-mile-per-hour fastball, and then you're having to sit and wait. You're having to choke up on your bat, waiting for a 75-mile-per-hour pitch to get across the plate. Arkansas was swinging early. They were swinging late. They couldn't draw the contact, and really, it was not a fun game to watch through the first 6 innings. Arkansas trailed, let's see here. I think they were trailing 5-3 through the 4th inning, and then they really tacked it on. They tied the game at 5, and then they took the lead in the 6th inning, and then in the 7th and the 8th, it was all them. But through the first 4 innings, you got to chalk it up to Grambling. You got to tip their hat to them for coming out and giving Arkansas a game. And I was really kind of worried about it because they played in that HBCU challenge and they started the season off 2-1. And I thought, man, Grambling is going to be able to come in with a little bit of swagger and really test Arkansas. Arkansas took this game as a way of figuring things out. And they did. They figured some things out. You had Tavian Josenberger. He played great. Peyton Stovall, Jared Wegner again. These guys are really trying to come to their own. And you think about your 2 big lands and Jason Jones and Caleb Cali that really haven't gotten to the into the bit of things yet. I mean, they played some pretty good ball, but they're just not there at the plate yet. And you're not going to get better at the plate by seeing 75-mile-per-hour fastballs like you did against Grambling. Razorback fans, give me your comments and your thoughts on this weekend's matchup against EIU. Arkansas, they won the first 2 games. The first game was a 10-run rule in 7 innings against Eastern Illinois on Friday. They really took it to them. I really think Arkansas played their best game. They played and won 10-4 on Saturday, but their best overall game was Saturday, especially at the plate and on the field. I really think Arkansas was able to do some things, and they were able to figure out what they had. Now, I think it was okay to go out and lose the game on Sunday. Yeah, you didn't get the first sweep of the season, but you were able to kind of test some guys on Sunday that you hadn't been able to recently. But guys like Tavian Josenberg, he went 2 for 5 at the plate on Saturday, scored 2 runs. Kendall Diggs, a guy that hit a home run. I mean, he called game on Friday. But he had a great weekend at the plate. He went 1 for 4 from the plate on Friday. He had that 1 homer, had 4 RBIs in that game. Jared Wegner 1 for 4. He had 2 RBIs. Brady Slavens, who completely just took over the game. He was 2 for 4, had 1 RBI. And then you have Peyton Holt, a guy that has really kind of impressed me. He played a little bit of second base there. On Friday's game, he went 2 for 4. I mean, 2 for 2. I'm sorry. I was getting my lines mixed up. And then you had John Bolton at shortstop. He was getting in on the action. But Arkansas went 11 for 31. Just really did some good things there at the plate. Hagen Smith, he got the start. He allowed 3 hits. He didn't give up any earned runs, but he was kind of touchy. And then you had Cody Adcock come in. Then you had Austin Ledbetter, the Bryant native, and then you had Gage Wood, who came in to close out things. But yeah, Hagen Smith threw 97 pitches through 4 2/3 innings, and he threw some things that were really nice. Threw some things that were kind of all over the place. And then on Saturday, man, Will McIntyre, I like to call him Willie Mack. That guy, he just kind of had a rough start to things. I think he only threw like 70 something pitches, 85 pitches, in 4 2/3 innings of work. He allowed 2 hits, 1 earned run, and two hit batters. So the guy, I mean, he kind of struggled. He was throwing with some heat, but he was throwing over the catcher, under the catcher, to the side of the catcher. Like there was just a lot of things that I was having issues with. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Because Arkansas, I mean, we were promised that this is the deepest that this pitching group, this pitching staff has been ever under under Coach Van Horn, and just things just weren't looking good through your starters. And we thought we'd see some mix-ups through some and see some names that we hadn't seen, but I mean, we really didn't. Cody Frank got in the action. He got 2 1/3 innings. Brady Tiger had 1 inning of work on Saturday, and Dylan Carter had 1 inning of work. All those pitchers, they had at least allowed 1 hit, and allowed 3 of them allowed 1 earned run each. Let's see here, but Will McIntyre, he did earn a win because Arkansas's offense was incredible. Again, they win 10-3 on Saturday, and then we can say there's a cause for concern, especially for the way they played today. But I will tell you this: I would not take away anything bad about how Arkansas lost today, especially with they're a good team, and I think Dave Van Horn was kind of experimenting with things. Obviously, the pitching wasn't there, but Holland really started it off great. He had a strong start on the mound. He pitched 5 2/3 innings and allowed 2 runs, struck out 4, and allowed only 6 hits and 2 walks. But he left the game with a 2-run lead. And Arkansas, I mean, it looked like things were going to go well, and you thought, Arkansas's in a good spot. They're going to get the sweep. And then, boom, things just went out of control. And when Holland went out, Eastern Illinois took it to Arkansas's bullpen, and they allowed 1 to score in the 6th, 4 in the 7th, and then things just monsoon from there, and Arkansas allowed 6 more runs in the 8th inning to go up 12-3. And I don't think there's anything really concerning about how they lost to Eastern Illinois. It stinks you don't get the sweep to start conference play. That's all right. I think it's going to be okay. I think Arkansas is going to be well equipped, because on March 1st, this Wednesday at 3 p.m., they host Illinois State for a midweek 1-game matchup, and then they play Wright State for 3 games this weekend. And the first pitch on Friday is at 3 o'clock. So I'm really not too worried as far as what Arkansas's outcome was this weekend. I think they played some pretty inspired ball. They got after it this week, went 3-1 for the week, and you can't beat that. I mean, as the season goes, I think conference play will go in a little bit deeper. But I think right now it's just really hard to tell what Arkansas has. They have some men. I think Arkansas is never going to have to struggle from the plate. Especially, I mean, this is one of the biggest teams I think I've seen Arkansas have. Usually, I remember seeing Chad Spanberger, just a complete monster at the plate, and then you had Casey Martin and Heston Kerstaff, who were just big guys. But you look at guys like John Bolton and Caleb Colley and a lot of these players. Brady Slavens, they're intimidating guys. They're tall guys. They hug the plate well. And I'm really intrigued to see Arkansas's offense because, sorry. They in the past, yeah, they've had a lot of power, but they didn't get as much pop. Brady Slavens, guys, he is hitting very well from the plate. I mean, the guy, he is one of the best opposite field hitters in the country, I think, because there was a couple of times where throughout this season where he set plenty of situational at bats and got them on the opposite side of the field where the shift is not there, and guys aren't in position to get this ball and make plays. And he's been able to get these runs in. And I think Brady Slavens, if he can stay with it and stay consistent, more consistent than he's been in the last 2 seasons, I think Arkansas can be carried by their first baseman. But man, guys, moving on here. I know we're trying to lose track of. I'm losing track of time. We got about 20 minutes, but I got like 3 more things here to talk about. Arkansas football losers in the coaching carousel, according to Brandon Marcello at 247 Sports. Now, I don't see it as a slap in the face, as a lot of people would take it as. Arkansas was not considered winners in the coaching carousel. He's one of Arkansas's own, a guy that's been around. I mean, he's a national guy. But man, Arkansas, he kind of took it to Arkansas. It was kind of surprising. He put in, let's see, some winners of the coaching carousel. You had Dabo Swinney. Porter would love it because, yeah, they got they brought in Garrett Riley as offense coordinator, as Tony Elliott and Brent Venables, they had left in the past. And Clemson was needing to have some energy brought in to a program that, I mean, the past 2 years, you hadn't made it the college football playoff. They were considered winners. Louisville, after losing Scott Satterfield, they bring in Jeff Brom, a prior famed quarterback under Bobby Petrino at Louisville. They were considered winners. Washington State, I think, yeah, they should be definitely included as far as upgraded their coaching staff. I think that is truly a good take there. Miami, okay. They were considered winners. Liberty, Jamie Chadwell jumping over from Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, take over Liberty Flame, who Hugh Freeze was the head coach of. Hugh Freeze moves on to Auburn, who was also a winner in the coaching carousel after firing Brian Harsin. They bring in, they keep Cadillac Williams to anchor Auburn's recruiting. They bring in former Tulsa head coach Philip Montgomery, who's a solid coach, just didn't have all the success that he needed at Tulsa. Former Baylor defensive coordinator Ron Roberts, who was also considered at Arkansas before they hired Travis Williams. And they bring in former Auburn receiver Marcus Davis to also coach the same position that he played in college. Then they bring in Nebraska. Oh, here we go again. Nebraska brings in a really good coach. And, yeah, I mean, they're going to have time to rebuild, but in this day and age of college football, I guess that's okay. But yeah, Matt Rule, who took over at Baylor after the Art Briles scandal. Matt Rule, who also took over a Temple program, who wasn't very great, went 2-10 in his first season, and then won back-to-back 10-win seasons there at Temple. Then he won back-to-back in an appearance in the conference championship game at Baylor before fleeing to Charlotte. I'll take that a little bit. Colorado. I'm just going to keep on scrolling. I love Prime, but can we honestly call it a win yet? Because I don't really see. I mean, yeah, they put together a staff, but how hard is it going to be for him to keep the staff, especially if he doesn't have the success right away? And I'm really cheering for Prime, a guy that's an out-of-the-box hire. Arizona State, they were considered winners. And Kentucky was considered winners after hiring Liam Cohen back as offense coordinator. Wisconsin with Fickle as their new head coach, who was also at Cincinnati last year, and then New Mexico State. And then you have Texas A&M, who brings in Bobby Petrino. Whew, man, that's going to be a fiery Southwest Classic between Arkansas and Texas A&M. North Texas was a winner. Ole Miss was a winner. Don't get me started. I love Lane Kiffin, but I just don't see that either one of them. I mean, how can Ole Miss, who made huge changes to their staff, be considered winners, but Arkansas not considered winners? Losers, Notre Dame. Cincinnati, and then Arkansas. This is what Brandon Marcello had to say about Arkansas. They lost this offseason more than half of its staff, including both coordinators, who deserve a heap of credit for the Razorbacks' sudden turnaround in 2021. How Arkansas shifts into new offense and defense after Kendall Briles' departure for TCU and Barry Odom's trip to UNLV as a head coach for a second stint as a head coaching gig is the question of the spring. This is practically a new staff, 5 new coaches with 2 new identities. And that's not what head coach Sam Pittman expected heading into his 4th season in Fayetteville, where the transfer portal in NFL also led the losses of productive starters on offense and defense. The 7-6 overall record last season was a disappointment for the Hogs, who jumped as high as number 10 in the AP poll, and year 4 is critical for the future of the program under Pittman. Change could be a good thing, but either way is an inflection point of the Pittman career. Now, I'm going to rebuke this. And why am I going to rebuke this? Because I think from an outsider's point of view, and I know, him being an Arkansas guy, he doesn't want to give Arkansas too much credit and just add them to the winner side of things. I don't know that. I don't think that's what Brandon Marcello was trying to do. But let's play that. Okay. So from an outsider's perspective, you bring in Travis Williams from UCF, who was under Gus Malzahn last season, was a terrific defensive coordinator for them, had them for third down defense. Arkansas struggled there this year, and UCF was one of the best in the nation at that. And then you bring in Dan Enos, who this is his second stint at Arkansas, and yeah, you're losing Kendall Briles, but you look at what you bring back at Arkansas. You've got KJ Jefferson, who some consider him to be the best quarterback in the SEC returning this season, going into spring practice. You have Rocket Sanders, you have AJ Green, you have Rashad Dominion, who all 3 were consistent running backs last season. And then you bring in Isaiah Augustave, however you say his name, Augustave. You have a legit 4-headed monster because he was a blue chip recruit coming out of Florida, and he could be one of the next big things. He could be another Rocket Sanders. He could be a huge asset to this team at 6'2", a guy that you really want to see do good things. And it's kind of like a Ronnie Wingo size. If he can figure out how to run in between the tackles and not shy away from contact early on, I think Augustave could finally carve out a role with this Razorback offense. You go into this with the receivers wise. And I know you lose Jaden Hazelwood to the NFL draft. You lose Matt Landers because he expired his eligibility in college after 6 years. You bring in guys like Andrew Armstrong. You bring in a guy like Isaiah Tisla. You bring in, oh man, I'm forgetting his name, and I wish I would have pulled this up beforehand. Let's see here. Arkansas commitments for the 2023 class. And this is going to be on 247 Sports because I think they are one of the best ones as far as rankings go. Let's see here. Yeah, they bring in those guys. You have returners like Bryce Stevens and other guys. I think Arkansas's got a chance to be really good as far as like huge wide receivers. I mean, that's what Dan Enos likes to have. I think he'll have a lot more receivers to pass the ball around to this year, unlike the 2015 and 2016 seasons. And no offense to Keon Hatcher, Drew Morgan, and Dominic Reed, but I think this team, those guys were dogs. They were small, but they were dogs, man. They would really go after it. Man, wide receivers here. Tyrone Broden. How could I forget the Bowling Green receiver? He's considered the largest, the tallest wide receiver all at college football at 6'7", 215 pounds. You cannot beat that. And then, I really don't think Arkansas has any high school guys that are going to be able to play right away. I mean, Davion Dozier, he's nearly almost 6'4", a guy that really could be a good wide receiver, a guy that really took advantages in mismatches last season in the high school ranks in Alabama. Luke Has, who was a terrific tight end, a guy that in this day of age of college football, you'd really like to have him on your team. Man, he's terrific. A guy at 6'4", tight end, a guy that can really be a flex, kind of like a Travis Kelsey or name your tight end in the pros that's really successful. The guy at San Francisco, George Kittle. He's fantastic. But this is the kind of guy that you're getting. Then you get Shamar Easter at 6'5", 6'6", 225 pounds. Just complete mismatches in the wide receiver tight end room than ever before. And I think Arkansas will really benefit that. We've got to hurry up. I apologize, guys. Let's see here. And then running back and quarterback rankings. And we saw this. I saw this today from the On3 guys. And then I saw, let's see, was it that SEC podcast that retweeted it with a graphic? And the pre-spring SEC quarterback rankings, courtesy of SEC underscore StatCat of On3 Sports. He explained the rankings in his YouTube show in much more detail, but we'll go off of it. Who is the number one quarterback in the SEC going into spring practice? It's not Jaden Daniels with the LSU Tigers. It's not Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, and it's definitely not Will Rogers of Mississippi State. Who is KJ Jefferson? Why am I not surprised? Because I really think that KJ Jefferson's the best quarterback to return, especially a guy that's proven, a guy that has combined for over 3,000 yards his past 2 seasons, a guy that has bled Arkansas, has helped bring Arkansas out of the depths of Hades. He's ahead of Jaden Daniels. He is such an effective runner. But inside this Dan Enos offense, we saw what Dan Enos was able to do in one season with Brandon Allen. And obviously, Brandon Allen had had what he needed, the tools that he needed to succeed at the SEC level, and he was the all-time leading Arkansas quarterback in QBR until KJ Jefferson took over. And yeah, there's a lot of different philosophies as far as Arkansas's offense went. Arkansas threw a lot of short to intermediate throws over the middle. He didn't really execute that under Kendall Briles, but he was one of the best deep ball throwers. Accurate is all you can ask for out of a quarterback, especially for your favorite team. A guy that has a beautiful deep ball, has a lot of great velocity on his throws. Will he attack the middle of the field? And I think you look at this, and I think with the size advantage that Arkansas is going to have with their wide receiver room, I think this really sets up Arkansas and KJ Jefferson to have a better season than you could ever ask for. A guy that could probably throw for over 3,000 yards. I think you'll see a little bit less running out of him. I don't think you'll go for 700 yards, 800 yards rushing like he's capable of. I think if his best bet as far as becoming more of a polished passer is best under Dan Enos. Jalen Hurts said it himself in an interview. If it wasn't for Dan Enos helping him develop as a passer in Dan Enos' 1 year at Alabama, Jalen Hurts wouldn't be where he is. Look at Tua Tagovailoa, who developed as a passer under Dan Enos. You look at Kirk Cousins, a guy that Dan Enos coached while at Michigan State. You think I can go on and name on quarterbacks that Dan Enos has coached or been with. Tua Tagovailoa, a guy that is potentially going to be an NFL prospect, a guy that will probably end up being drafted by the NFL next season. I mean, Dan Enos has coached potentially, if he gets these 2 quarterbacks in the league, 9 quarterbacks under Dan Enos who have made the NFL rosters. That's simply incredible. That's exceptional numbers and something that Arkansas couldn't ask more for. Yeah, Kendall Briles had Robert Griffin III as the 2nd overall pick in the 2014 NFL draft. Kendall Briles, man, he did a lot of good things for KJ, really developed him and made him as effective as he's going to be under Kendall. I think that's as far as I think KJ could make it under him. But like I said, I think he has the opportunity to be a more developed passer under Danny knows than ever before. And I think a lot of that has to do with the wide receivers that they brought in and the tight ends that they're bringing in. Like I think Arkansas has the opportunity here to have a terrific season, especially at offense. As far as defense, um, I think a lot is going to have to be shored up, but they recruited well. Obviously, you had in the transfer portal a very good haul so far, and it may not be over because Arkansas, I think, has like 8 or 9 more spots open. I may be wrong, but you bring in a guy like Trajan Jeffcoat out of Missouri. You bring in Al Walcott out of Baylor. You bring in Snacks Johnson out of Baylor. You bring in Antonio Greer, who is going to be another impact linebacker. I think he may be one of the biggest sneaks in this transfer portal season. I think Chris Paul, Jordan Crook, and Antonio Greer will be one of the best trio of linebackers in the SEC. You bring in John Morgan to do edge rushing, a guy from Pitt who had a really good career. But I mean, under Deke Adams, we saw what Arkansas was able to do this season. They were leading the SEC and were top 10 in sacks this past season. And then, I mean, yeah, that's it as far as defensive transfers go. I think maybe 1 or 2 more defensive backs to be brought in. You bring in back Dwight McLaughlin. You get back a healthy Ladarius Bishop. And this team, man, I think with Hudson Clark maybe playing more of rotational safety, I think suits him best. I really think Arkansas has a chance to really surprise and build off a 7-6 season. I know it's hard to build off a 7-6 season, especially a season where you were let down. But I really think Arkansas has a chance to do some things next year. I really do. And I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not trying to sunshine pump. But I'm trying to kind of set realistic expectations. Maybe an 8 or 9 win season again in 2023 is attainable. I really didn't talk enough about the coaching changes that Arkansas went through defensively. I don't think that Travis Williams is going to receive enough credit because he was a UCF guy, a guy that didn't have much group of 5 experience. I mean, Power 5 experience as far as coaching defenses goes. But he's an SEC guy, pretty much an SEC lifer. Played at Auburn. It has a pedigree of the SEC. A guy that I think Arkansas really will have really good respected defenses under. And then you also have to think about the recruiting prowess of guys like Travis Williams. They're young. They're motivated to succeed. And then you have Marcus Woodson, who was a former defensive back coach, now co-defense coordinator here at Arkansas. I think that was an upgrade. And don't get me wrong, I love the defensive back coach that was here before. But things just didn't go as we expected them to. A guy that was really good fundamentals, a guy that was under best coaches under 35 in the country is who Arkansas had this past season. It just didn't work out. I think you bring in Marcus Woodson, you shore up the deficiencies in the secondary, and I think you're going to be all right. And I think Arkansas will be able to be like, okay, Sam Pittman knows what he's doing. And this could have been something that backfired on Sam Pittman. You lose your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. But who am I kidding? This defense that Arkansas had, this past season in 2022 was one of the worst in school history. John Chavis's 2019 or 2018 defense was better than the one that Barry Odom employed this past year. I'm not making up excuses. Arkansas better have a better defense because what Barry Odom was doing at Arkansas this past year didn't get the job done. And Arkansas was paying too much money for the product that was being put out on the field each and every single week. It was unacceptable. And now you bring in 2 guys that have that SEC background that are fired up and hungry and willing to recruit. And I think this really will be one of the better staffs at the end of the season. I think Arkansas can prove to be winners of the coaching carousel instead of losers. You bring in a tight end coach. Yeah, you lose Dal Loggins in South Carolina as offensive coordinator, but you bring in a guy that's coached like 7 or 8 tight ends to the NFL at Stanford. You don't see that very often. I think I'm missing. Oh yeah, you bring in a guy in Duran who's got family members throughout of college football, who has a great pedigree as far as coaching goes. Frank Wilson, who is his uncle, coaches at LSU with the running backs, a great, fantastic recruiter, a great, fantastic coach, a guy that's been around for a long time. And Arkansas's got him. This Deron Wilson guy, the coach the secondary. Morgan Turner at tight ends. You have more accomplished coaches on this staff right now than you had previously. Yeah, Barry Odom was respected for things that he did under Memphis, things that he did as defensive coordinator at Missouri, for the defenses that he fielded at Missouri while he's a head coach. You take the accomplishments that Kendall Briles had at Baylor, where they had one of the most explosive offenses in the country during his time there with his dad. At Arkansas, they were great offensively between the 20s this season, and then they just couldn't get it done in the red zone. But here we are, a fresh start, and like Brandon Marcello said, it could be a good thing for Arkansas. It's just going to take time to prove it. But that'll do it for episode 297 of the Hawg Talk podcast. I appreciate every single person coming in and joining in on the conversation and watching. Man, it means a lot. I'm glad I don't have to do this solo because it was really hard every single week for an hour. So I really appreciate every single one of y'all tuning in and watching. There's one thing that I haven't talked about tonight that I will talk about tomorrow morning. So kind of keep up and watch that tomorrow morning as I have it's pretty cool. So for Jacob Davis, this is episode 297 of the Hawg Talk podcast. Go Hogs.